All right. Ooh. Okay, is it? Good, it's not broken. Okay. I was worried there for a second. You never know when these things, might break. So the audio, I don't, hopefully it doesn't sound, I mean, I always hope it sounds better. But, this week, well, after stream last week, I was just so annoyed with the pop filter. Right, so I just had I had a pop filter on my mic that was, it was like a wrapper, like it was like on like a long cord, and it was just like a disc that sat in front of the mic, and it worked fine. I never really had a problem with it. But it's so big and intrusive, and it always just annoyed the crap out of me. Right, the pop filter just always annoyed me. So I was always like, you know what, one of these days. So after last week, right, when it just really got on my nerves, because what we were talking about, the Game Awards or something. Has that little button always been down there in the corner? I know I'm blocking it currently, but you see that little, like, exchange? Has that always been there? I don't remember seeing that before. Interesting. But so yeah, after last week's stream, we were looking at the Game Awards predictions. And I was just like so annoyed with the stupid pop filter. I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna buy a new one. So I bought a new one that I just put on the top of my mic. It works, right, it's the exact same thing basically. It's like, the exact same thing. It's just not like this massive thing anymore, right? There's now this massive cord of, right, steel wire that wraps around. So hopefully it's better. That's the hope anyways. I don't know. But yeah, it just really it just annoyed the crap out of me last week. So yeah, other than that, nothing's really changed. So for this week's show, we have a few things to talk about. Usually the time between the Game Awards and next year, and right the start of the new year, is dead season. Right, that's how it's been for years now. But we actually got a fair few updates. Nothing like major or anything. Like there wasn't some big game announced or anything. But we got a few updates on some already existing stories. So color me surprised. Plus we do also have the end of the year wrap up, which we're going to do first. So, you kind of, I don't know where this started, but because companies do nothing but collect data nowadays, there's been a trend. Most of the time I see people talk about it, it's with Spotify. But where companies use the data they've collected to, tell you like, hey, this is like the song you've listened to the most this year. Spotify did an interesting thing where they were like, hey, this is the city that like is the most like the music you listen to. So, right, it would be like, oh yeah, you most listen to music like the people in Sacramento, California. Or Colorado Springs, or Flagstaff, Arizona, right? Shit like that. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting idea. It's different, at least. But video game companies do something similar. So I do have PlayStations and Nintendos. I have already looked at the Nintendo one, but I have not looked at the PlayStation one. I'm pretty sure Xbox also put out one, but I have not looked at that either. And I don't even... Honestly, I barely... The only Xbox game I played is Starfield. So it's going to be like, oh yeah, you put 70 hours into Starfield this year. And that's it. So I'm not even going to pull up the Xbox One, wherever that one is. So yeah, so we've got that. Then we've got some updates, mostly PlayStation related. There's an update on Spider-Man and an update on The Last of Us. So we've got the two of those. And then finally, we've got some WIBE, right? I've got a bunch of stuff. I saw 2 movies, so we've got that. I saw, what else did I see? We've got some TV, the finale of Secret Life was today. There's a few other things we got. So yeah, we've got a pretty decent movie. Who's waiting to join me? Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe we'll do the other things first, and then maybe we'll do the wrap-up. I didn't know I had someone waiting for me. You know, just doing some casual splooning. So yeah, what else do we got? I think that's it. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, I guess let's start with Spider-Man. Sure, why not? So, for Spider-Man, there was, there had been talks about us getting a Spider-Man update sometime this year. But, nothing we hadn't heard anything until earlier this week when, Insomniac put out a statement saying, like, hey, guess what? The Spider-Man update has been delayed, ? Even though it had never officially been, like, announced or anything. It more or less got delayed until next year. Now, we're still pretty sure it's going to be early next year, so, I'd guess within January, March, or February. I'd still guess early. But, we know it's going to be sometime next year. So, what's going to be in the update? Well, hopefully, things people have been asking for. A lot of people have really wanted the ability to change night and day cycles, because, you could do that in the first game. And I'm pretty sure you could do that in Miles Morales as well. So people have been wanting the ability to change from night to day. So that's the first big thing. People have been asking to change the weather. I don't know if they confirmed you're going to be able to change the weather. Like, I don't think they confirmed that, but, it's pretty well speculated. Because, you could change the weather in the first game. So that makes sense. There had been speculation. What else? Oh, so the big thing people wanted was a New Game Plus. They did confirm that, yes, we are getting a New Game Plus. That's good. I personally don't really use New Game Plus that much. It's not really, like, the only reason I played it with Miles Morales is because I had to for the achievement. And usually when updates like this come out, they usually add new achievements, so I'm sure they will add new ones here. Probably. So we'll get... I just walked right into that. So we'll get new achievements, maybe, but we're going to get a New Game Plus. The other thing that people had wanted, which I don't remember being in the original, but I definitely remember seeing in Miles Morales, was the ability to replay missions. People had wanted the ability to replay missions, and I had agreed. I was like, that makes sense. People want to replay the missions. And I really had... It really kind of sucked in Spider-Man 2. If you saw us doing all the achievement hunting, one of the problems we came across was that, once you kill all the enemies, there's really nothing left for you to fight. Right? Like, once you do all the enemy raid bases, you can only do the random street crime, which is at most, like, 3 enemies. And it's kind of a pain in the ass, right? Just relying on that random street crime. So the idea that we'll be able to replay missions is, I think, a great thing that should hopefully add a lot. Right? I definitely get why people wanted it so much. Like, it's not a feature I really think about using, but, just getting the 100% achievement grind in Spider-Man 2 kind of sucked, and having the ability to replay missions would have made that a lot more convenient. Of course, for me, right now, in this moment, it's not very convenient, but what you gonna do? Let me see, what else do they have in their statement? We have some news about the next gen game. New Game Plus audio descriptions. Among many more, we have been working on vigilante features. Require some more testing and quality to get up to snuff. Targeting in early 2024 for the next game update. We'll have a more feature-complete list closer to its release. We've heard feedback and we'll be adding some highly requested features, including the ability to change time of days, swap tendril colors. I will admit that's one of the weird ones, where because after you beat the game, you can only use the white tendrils. And I'm like, why? Like, it feels weird. Like, it feels like it should just change with the costume. Because, like, the webbing changes with the costume. Right? That all works. So I totally get that feature. Replay missions, just to name a few. Can't wait to share more with you in the future. In the meantime, we appreciate your patience as our team works to finish the next update. And I think audio descriptions are also a great feature. Like, yeah, that's definitely needed. So I think all around, you know, potential for a really decent update. You know, it's not anything huge, but I get why they're doing it. Right? And like, we knew it's coming. Do I think there's still going to be story DLC? Because I know I feel like DLC nowadays takes longer. Like, and I think that's a good thing. Because before, it did kind of suck that you'd have to wait an entire... Or it sucked that, you know, developers would take some time from the game's development to start working on DLC. Right? On-disc DLC is what I think of. That was a Capcom thing, right? I know Capcom wasn't the only one to do it, but they're the first ones I think of. But no, I think it's right. I'm fine with developer, right? Like this God of War DLC. It's been, what, a year? Same thing with the Elden Ring DLC. There was actually some rumors about the Elden Ring DLC that we're actually going to be getting it early next year, according to a leak. Like some like controller company or something like that accidentally leaked some stuff. And you know what? Good. I'm all down for some Elden Ring DLC. Ah, shit, they were behind us. Not that I've played Elden Ring, but, you know, I know they teased it last year, and then they've been radio silent since then. So finally finding out that, oh, we might be getting it as soon as February. Is great. What else? Anything else with Spider-Man? Nothing I can really think of. But yeah, no, you know, we knew the DLC was coming eventually. So next up, The Last of Us. So The Last of Us Factions was a game that, you know, we knew about the development for a while now. We knew that The Last of Us Factions was coming. We just didn't know, you know, when. A lot of people were expecting it at PlayStation's big, oh god. A lot of people were expecting it at PlayStation's big, like, E3 showcase, or even at, State of Play. And that just ended up not happening. So, it was like, okay, well, when are we going to get this DLC? And turns out, it's actually a lot soon. When are we going to get The Last of Us Factions, right? That was the big question. And turns out, yeah, it's not going to happen. Because in a report that was written up, I don't remember who wrote up the report. But basically, they had said something along the lines of the game was in a rocky place in development, and that in order to, you know, make sure that, basically they had brought in the Destiny developers to, like, go through, run some stuff on the game, and see how it all works out. So that was the story we had last heard of it, right? That the game wasn't... I don't think it was restarting development, but they were definitely going back to the basics to try to figure out what to do. Which, I mean, makes sense, right? If the game's a mess, right, you want to make a fun game first. Or, well, okay, you want to make a good game first, we're talking about The Last of Us devs. I guess that's the better way to put it. You want to make a good game first. Because The Last of Us does not care if it's fun. In fact, they don't want to be fun games. Like, I bet you that's a direct quote. We don't make fun games. That wouldn't surprise me if that was... It's not, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. So, The Last of Us factions. Well, the other day we did get an update. And I'll read it right here. So, an update on The Last of Us factions. We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development of the game. And then moving down a little bit, this is the part I really actually like. In ramping up full production, the massive scope and ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to pull all of our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development of future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that define Naughty Dog's heritage. And that's the part I really care about. Right, is this bit of like, yeah, you know, we could become a full live service studio. Which kind of feels like what a lot of studios are becoming nowadays. It feels like everyone wants to be a live service studio. Or, you know, every CEO wants their studio to be live service. And I can tell you why that is. It's because of, it's because live service games make more money. Right? They use scummier business tactics like, you know, loot boxes and battle passes to, you know, encourage players to, you know, spend more money. Right? Like Todd Howard once said when talking about Skyrim, that, you know, Skyrim did great, but people only ever paid once for Skyrim. And as a result, right, they only made so much money off of Skyrim. Right? Because... right, if Skyrim was a live service game, which is what eventually became Elder Scrolls Online, things would have turned out very differently. So, right, that's why most studios are making live service games. Now, does The Last of Us need to be a live service game? No, nothing needs to be a live service game. And honestly, one of the things that that's very important for consoles and first-party developers is that it's important to have flagship single-player games for your console. Games like The Last of Us. Games like, God of War. Games like Spider-Man, right? It's important to have games like that on your system. Because while multiplayer games make money, single-player games sell consoles. At least that's what it feels like. I mean, the Switch didn't become successful off of the support of Fortnite, right? The Switch became successful off of Mario Kart. I know Mario Kart has online play and multiplayer, but it's a single-player game first. Right, the Switch became successful off of Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, stuff like that. And I feel like having, right, like I know Splatoon's a great game, right? I really enjoy it. It is a multiplayer game, but it also has a really good single player. At least the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2 was good. So, you know, consoles sell by single-player games. I've said it before, I'll say it again. So The Last of Us turning into a multiplayer dev is definitely not a move you want to make lightly. Especially because, you know, if they're spending years supporting a multiplayer game, that's so many system-selling single-player games that will never be released. So I stand by this was the right move. Right? Not releasing The Last of Us, just canceling the game. I know putting a lot of work into a game is something hard, right? That sucks. Canceling a game like that is something that sucks. But I think it was the right move. You know, like, there are definitely worse things they could have done. I definitely stand by that. Yeah, that was the right move. But yeah, so I think this is for the best. You know, I'm way more interested in The Last of Us as a single player game than a multiplayer game. Even though I've still never played The Last of Us 2. I just don't. The Last of Us multiplayer does nothing for me. And I would rather, honestly, if they wanted to do a Last of Us multiplayer game, I'd rather have them bring in a studio like Bungie, right, that does multiplayer games, and just have them take over the entire project. But of course, we have all that shit going on with Bungie right now, right, where they've laid off a bunch of staff, community support. And yeah, you know, see, the problem is, multiplayer games are built off the idea of infinite growth. And infinite growth just isn't sustainable, right? Nothing grows forever. Eventually, the universe will heat death, right? So, trying to support a game forever just doesn't make sense, right? I just don't like, it's like, whatever, you know, that's not going to work. You can only support a game for so long, right? And Destiny's hitting it. Fortnite will hit it eventually. It's just the truth, right? Fortnite's eventually going to hit their ceiling. Some people will say they already have. No, they haven't. Fortnite's still growing, sadly. But no, I think this is for the best. And yeah, I just love that, right? They could, right? Because I want more. I'm all aboard single player games, right? Like, yes, Splatoon is the one multiplayer game I play, but it's because it's my second job. And you know, that's the other thing with The Last of Us Factions. Sure, people would I've said this before. People pick up new multiplayer games, play them for a few weeks, and then just go back to the one they've already been playing. Right? For the longest time, it was Destiny. People would pick up a new multiplayer game, and then they would just go back to Destiny. And then Fortnite came out. And now it's Fortnite, right? People play other games, but they always go back to Fortnite. Because, you know, Fortnite's where all their collectibles are. It's where all their skins are. Why would you support the economy of a new game when Fortnite already has all of your shit in it? For me, it was Fall Guys, right? I was big into Fall Guys was my game for a long time. I mean, it was Splatoon 2 before that, but I eventually was like, okay, I'm done with Splatoon 2. I've done everything I want to. And then it became... And then it became Fall Guys, and I really enjoyed my time with Fall Guys. And even though, right, all my skins are still in Fall Guys, I eventually had to give it up because, you know, I feel like the way they started updating the game kind of sucked. Right? They kind of ruined it. Right? When it became a live service game. So I had no reason to turn back to it. And then Splatoon came out, and yeah, there goes all my time into that. So yeah, that's kind of where I think this is for the best. Right? Because people would pick up The Last of Us Faction. Because, like, there wasn't, like, Rocket Arena or one of those games just announced that it was shutting down earlier. But that's the thing. Right? People will always pick up a live service game and then just go back to the one they've been playing. So what are you going to do? But no, I think this is for the best. I hope they're able to salvage some of what they created for Factions for their next game. You know, I don't know if they can, but I hope they do. So next up, we have to talk about end of the year wrap up. So here's my end of the year wrap up. So we'll start off with the Nintendo one, and then I'll go over to the PlayStation one. So, right, you see all these different things. So let's get started. Here we go. So let's take it in review. The first game so this surprises me. Because I honestly don't remember playing Wii Sports. I remember playing golf when it came out, which I want to say was early this year. But for the first game of the year, I have to guess it's my first game because I was playing it on New Year's. I was playing it on New Year's. I think I don't remember. Maybe I took it over to my parents or something. Because my father loves Wii Sports. So I was like, yeah, we'll take it over there. And that's how it became my first game. If I had to guess, that's it. Time played. I played 48 games, which is up from I want to say last year I only played like 35. And 700 hours, which I want to say is also up from last year. I can't be entirely sure about that. But, that seems right. Did I play Captain Toad Treasure Tracker this year? I swear I played that last year. I honestly don't remember. Maybe I played the DLC? No, I think I did the DLC at the same time. I'll be honest, I really don't remember. But you can kind of get a feeling for all the stuff I played. I played a lot this year. And this is just on Nintendo. I played a bunch on PlayStation. I played one game on Xbox. At least it feels like I played a bunch. Some really good games in here, honestly. There's some great stuff in here. Most played game. Splatoon at 150 hours. Doesn't surprise me at all. I loved this game. I put a lot of time into it. Makes total sense. Especially because we play it every week. Tears of the Kingdom at 93 hours. Yep. And there's still so much I didn't do in that game. I played almost 100 hours. And there was so much shit that I never even touched. So that really surprises me. Right? That I had 93. And then we did Let's Play Breath of the Wild, which also took me, about 60 hours. So that makes, both those numbers make sense. Started playing, most played month was January. That actually kind of surprises me. Tears of the Kingdom, most played month was in June. Again, we Let's Played it. Makes total sense. And then Zelda, April, because again, we were playing it in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom. I love that all of the images they use, right? Game winner, Game of the Year. This one has a Game of the Year winner for 2017. I think that's neat. It won 3 awards that year. Wow. Trends, action. I'm going to assume this is all the Zelda stuff. Is Splatoon counted as action and/or adventure? Because 12% for Splatoon being my most played games kind of surprises me. Maybe this is just overall, because if you look back at this stuff, right, you've got, I'm sure Minecraft is action and adventure. I don't know what Pikmin's counted as, but I'm sure, was there a sim and strategy? Strategy. So maybe that, I would honestly, I know there's only a few Pikmin games, but yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in here. Most played, June with 134 hours. Those are all of my totals. You can see, right, this is when I was playing Breath of the Wild. This is when I was playing Tears of the Kingdom. So you can totally see how those numbers get there. Games played. Oh, okay. Played 8 games. Yeah, Splatoon's going to be in a lot of these. I started with Breath of the Wild in March. We played through it in April. Tears of the Kingdom came out in May. Minecraft isn't... again, I mostly played through Tears of the Kingdom in June. But I guess that was when the 1.20 update came out, so I guess that makes sense. Huh. That makes sense for July, because that's when I think we beat the game in July. Vampire Survivors came out in August. I said I put 100 hours into it. That's not how it worked out, but yeah. That was when the Pokemon Teal Mask came out. Again, more time. I think this was when I 100%ed Vampire Survivors. Mario Wonder came out this month. Yep, that makes total sense. Really enjoyed it. And, of course, it's got nothing for December. Favorite game of 2023. From some of the selections they're giving us, let's pick contrarian, let's pick Pikmin. 40 hours. Honestly, not bad. Wait, does this have all of our playtimes real quick? 42 in Minecraft. I swear I did more than 48 in Vampire Survivors. That feels very low. I swear I was more in like the 60s range. And like we'd seen Zelda, we'd seen Splatoon. What else had we put in? Honestly, 40 hours in Pikmin is actually more than I would have thought. Pokemon, right? We finished the Pokedex, I think, this year. We did that. We did the Kitakami Dex. I played Pikmin 3 like twice this year. I did this. I 100%ed this game for the first time ever. Or at least, you know, the new Super Mario Brothers U part. I kind of forgot this one even came out. If I'm being perfectly honest. I was only when I was doing the Game of the Year stuff, I was like, wait a second. This came out. Pikmin 2, yeah. Mario Wonder. Yeah. There's still so much in this game I didn't do, but I did enjoy it. Yeah, Pokemon Violet, which I just started recently. Sports Story, one of my biggest letdowns of the year. I enjoy Golf Story so much, and I was just so disappointed by this one. I didn't hate. It's not as bad as like that Golem game or the Kong Skull Island game or that game that just got pulled off Steam like the moment it was put up. It's not as bad as like those games, but it's still it breaks my heart. Stardew Valley I played a little bit of. Kirby, I guess I played at some point. I played Link's Awakening 3 times this year. Once on Game Boy, once on the original Game Boy, once the Link's Awakening DX, and then once on the remake. There was a Link's Awakening DX HD that was put on itch.io, and I was like, oh, I should download that and play that before Nintendo takes it down. I saw it yesterday, and then this morning Nintendo took it down. I did replay Star Allies. Yeah, I did do that. Put some time into Smash, N64, Shovel Knight. Trombone. Wow, it took me only 4 hours to 100% Trombone Champ. Totally get why I didn't put much time into that. Yeah, only took me like 3 hours to 100% that. I think we Let's Played that last year. I did replay that this year. And, there's a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, there's just a bunch of other random stuff on here. Oh, I did replay Sayonara Wild Hearts this year. I really enjoy that game. Let's go back to Pikmin. Pikmin 4, there we go. And we can get screenshots, and yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's the Nintendo year in review. Yeah, I put some good... I definitely put more time into gaming than I did last year. I had just a little bit more time. Honestly, most of it came from Zelda. Zelda and Splatoon came a lot of it. So now let's check out the PlayStation 1. So let's find out, what did I do? My first game of the year was Planet Coaster. You can tell I put a lot less time into PlayStation than I do Nintendo. Yeah, I did play Planet Coaster very early in the year because I was curious. Big hitters. So Spider-Man, of course, 27 hours. We got all the achievements. Then the remaster of the original. Then Miles Morales. I did replay South Park: The Stick of Truth. And then there's City Skylines back down there. Thrill Seeker, you spent 68% of the game time on the edge of your seat. Huh. I don't know how they're getting that number or what that number means. But okay, PlayStation, if that's what you're saying. Monthly. Okay. So, right, I played some Planet Coaster. Nothing in February. I played Stick of Truth in Fractured But Whole in March. Didn't play anything for a few months. City Skylines, which I put some time into in August. And then, of course, we put all of our Spider-Man time in October. We did Miles Morales in November. And then I've been playing Power Wash Sim, which we'll talk about in a few hours, or which we'll talk about later in the show. Literally none of this means anything for me. 87. Okay, you know, that's fine, whatever. Again, I'm a Nintendo guy at heart. I got 2 platinums. Spider-Man 2 and Miles Morales. A few golds. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Lone Wolf. Sometimes all you need is a... Okay, this one, on the other hand, I get how they got to this one. Right? Most of the games I play are single player. I totally get how I got to there. So yeah, what a year. Share and compare. There's some Avatar stuff. And then we got this stuff down here. Oh, this is just our share and compare. Okay, interesting. So that's my PlayStation year. And again, I'm not going to show the Xbox one, just because literally the only game I played was Starfield. There's no point to that. Oh, woo, you played 70 hours of Starfield. I bet, honestly, I bet it was probably closer to 40. If I'm going to be honest, right? Like, I'm so wrong about these things that I bet I probably only put like 40 hours into Starfield. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So that's my year in review. So I guess that takes us to WIBE. So, what have I been enjoying? Well... They still... Okay. Whatever. I'm just gonna hop back in. So, what have I been playing? Okay, so it's Marble League time. So the Marble League 2023 has been going on, and last we talked about it, my team was not doing great. We were going low. I'm a fan of Team Galactic, Team Galac Mid, and Team Galac Mid was doing pretty mid. In fact, we were doing worse than mid for a while. Eventually, we did win, I want to say 2 silvers. Maybe we won a silver and a bronze. Eventually, we did win a few medals. I don't think we won a gold, but I want to say we won a silver and a bronze. And started moving up. We started moving up the bracket, and I was very excited. Right, like, this was our chance at redemption. We won, like, 2 medals back-to-back. And then that's it. Right, it went right back to Team Galac Mid. And last week, 2 weeks ago, we were eventually mathematically eliminated. And that sucks. It sucks that we were mathematically eliminated. So, here we are in the final week. And the final was the Bumble Dome? It was racing, right? It was the mile, right? 13 laps. Right, whoever makes it to the end makes it. And so, right, with the Bumblebee, or with the thing, we actually, in the race, we were doing pretty good. We were doing really good. And I was like, because we were consistently in like 3rd, 4th, and 5th for most of the race. And I want to say we ended the race in like 5th. No, maybe we ended in 4th. So we were doing consistently good. The Savage Speeders did awful. The Savage Speeders just did not. Right, they started off so low. Like, they were in last place for a long time. But eventually, Team Plasma started sucking, and they just fell way behind. So then the final results came in, and yeah, guess what? We were still mathematically eliminated. I want to say we ended off in, like, 6th. In the final scores, we were in 6th place. Which, for a team that didn't even qualify 2 years ago, yeah, that sucks. Admittedly, we did come in, like, 2nd or 3rd last year. So, going from 2nd or 3rd to, 6th, it's not terrible. It's above mid. So, it sucks, but whatever. So from there, the other one, I knew someone who was rooting for the Pinkies, And in the final race, the Pinkies did pretty well. But because the Savage Speeders kind of made a comeback, even though they didn't medal or anything, they were able to keep the podium. And I want to say the Pinkies only lost by like a few points. Or else they would have made it onto the final podium. Because, yeah, I knew someone who was rooting for... Who, you know, they root for a different team, but because their team didn't qualify, they were rooting for the Pinkies. Because I want to say the Pinkies won last year. Or they came pretty high. They came in... I want to say they came in top 3. Maybe I'm thinking of the Showdown. I don't know. I kind of remember the Pinkies doing well. So I was surprised to, you know... I really thought they had a chance to take it. And no, at the 12th hour, or whatever the saying is... Nope, they got squirted out by the Savage Speeders, and the Pinkies came in 4th. So who were the final winners? I want to say the Bumblebees did win. I can't remember if they came in 1st or 2nd. I want to say they came in 2nd. The Bumblebees came in 2nd, which breaks the... Right, I know the host curse has always kind of been a thing. But I feel like as the years go on, we see less and less of the host curse. And I kind of wonder if maybe the Bumblebees winning this year, coming in top 3, is the official death of the host curse. Hey, Lefno, how you doing? We're talking marbles. Yeah, so I think the Bumblebees coming in 3rd, or 2nd, marks the end of the host curse. I really do. Other teams... like I said, the Savage Speeders came in 3rd. Big for them. Yeah, I think so. I definitely recognize your name. Savage Speeders came in 3rd. And the overall winner of the Marble League was the Crazy Cat's Eye. Honestly, again, not too surprising. And then I was trying to think, did the Crazy Cat's Eyes host last year or 2 years ago? Because I know the Green Ducks hosted one of the years. But I was trying to think, like, did the Green Ducks host 2 years ago? Because the Green Ducks didn't even qualify this year. But yeah, I want to say the Crazy Cat's Eyes hosted last year. And I want to say they broke the host curse as well. I really feel like the host curse has officially been broken. Other than that, we find out the host for next year's Marble League is the, Gliding Glaciers, which honestly I did not see coming. Out of all the teams, I was not expecting the Gliding Glaciers. So, you know, good on them, I guess. But I think it was a pretty decent Marble League. I'm not going to say it was, like, one of the best. But I still think it was pretty good. There were some good moments, some interesting events for sure, that did not play out how I was expecting. We had a streaker this year, which, I mean, is better than when they charged the field a while ago. I legitimately can't remember if they charged the... Was it the Rangers fans who charged the field, like, 2 years ago or last year? Oh, God damn it. But no, I think it was a pretty decent Marble League. Not one of the best, but still a pretty good one. You know, they're doing the most with what they've got, and I think they've made something still very good and very entertaining. So yeah, I'll always root for Team Galactic, even if they don't qualify because I don't think they qualified in 21. Gosh dang it! I ran out of ink right then. What else? What else? Anything else from the Marble League? Nothing I can think of. The other thing that was today was the finale of Secret Life. So originally I had been watching Secret Life through Mumbo's perspective, right? Because, you know, Mumbo Jumbo, and I totally get that. So I was originally watching his perspective, and then in, like, episode, like, 4 or 5, he died. Right? He got... Him and... It was, like, LD Shadow Lady, maybe even there was a third person, got out, like, super early. So I was like, okay, well, who do I switch to now? You know, normally I'd go to, like... Usually I watch with Grian. But I was like, yeah, you know, let's do someone different. So I switched over to Jim and Ite. And I've been watching them ever since. And honestly, it was a very good perspective. If you have not watched theirs, I think it was... Some episodes weren't... Like, there was one time where they had, like, a secret task to lie. And, like, that wasn't as interesting. But, like, last episode, maybe even 2 episodes ago, they had a secret task to, like, basically do zombies. And that was fantastic. That was so interesting and played out so well. I really enjoyed the zombies task. And that started with Tay. Or Jim and Tay. Jim? I think they... See, there's a Jim and there's a Tay who, you know, is... I want to say Tay is Tater Tot. And then Jim is Jim and Tay. And I'm pretty sure they're different people. But no, it was a really... I honestly really... I've never watched Jim and Tay's. Any of their stuff. But honestly, I really liked their perspective. And I feel like it all played out really well. I do not want to spoil how it ends. But I feel like it was very interesting. So I really enjoyed that. The Life series is still fantastic. I get why everybody raves about it. And I'm glad I jumped on the bandwagon in Season 3. I hope they keep making more, you know. 2 seasons a year, I think is fantastic. It's just, it's honestly, I think it's way better than, like, a lot of these, like, SMPs, like Dream SMP or whatever the heck Quackity was doing. I just find this way more interesting. And I think this season works so well because it had events that forced interaction, but also because people can only play during certain times, that also forces certain interactions, right? If you've only got like 3 hours to play, right, 3-hour sessions, you have to do everything within that time limit. I just really do think it's like the best Minecraft, at least nowadays, right? Like I only play Minecraft once, maybe twice a year, but I feel like when it comes to watching Minecraft, the Life series is fantastic. Like, there's nobody else who really does Minecraft that I'm like, yeah, you know, I'd watch that, I guess. Other than, you know, finding out new updates about the game. And nothing else really interests me. Right? There's no, like, I know Captain Sparkle's retired, which, you know, good on them. If they're done with Minecraft, you know, I get it. And when I say retire, I mean retire from Minecraft. I don't mean retire as a whole, just retire from Minecraft. And I get it, right? I'm surprised they lasted this long. But yeah, I actually found, so, you know, Fallen Kingdom, I found out recently-ish, probably in the past, like, month, that there's actually, that Captain Sparkle's made a 5th one, a prequel. Because, you know, there was Fallen Kingdom, right, there was the original, and then they did a sequel with the son, then they did one where the son finds the father, and then they did a 4th one that I feel like nobody cared about, but it was about, you know, the father and son teaming up, and it ended with the son dying. And now we got a new one, which is about, like, how the father founded the kingdom. And it's called, like, Kingdom Rise or something like that. I don't know. I had never heard of it, but I saw it pop through in my YouTube recommendations. Because I re-listened to Fallen Kingdom because it had, like, an anniversary or something recently. And I was like, oh, you know what? Well, sure, I'll listen to that again. And yeah, you know, nostalgia. And maybe that's why they did the thing, was because of the anniversary, or there was some method to the madness. I just don't remember what it was. So yeah, let's see what else. So those are the two YouTube things. I forgot. So there was a bunch of stuff we forgot to talk about last week. Specifically Invincibles, season 2, episode 4. Right, this is the one where Omni-Man, or where Mark goes and finds Omni-Man. Ooh, it's a little watered down. And, you know, they're on the bug planet. Mark learns he has a little brother. I want to say the name. Well, actually, it doesn't. The name will be Oliver, but right now he doesn't have a name. And then, you know, the Viltrumites come in to, you know, beat up Omni-Man, take him away, and tell Mark that, oh, he's got basically a year to shape the planet for the Viltrumite invasion. I want to say it's even less than it's like sometime in the next year. And yeah, you know, I'm still really enjoying Invincible. They're on mid-season hiatus right now. So they'll be back sometime early next year, probably. And yeah, it's still a great show. As someone who has read the comics, they are definitely making some changes. Like, they've basically like, in the comics, Debbie, after Omni-Man has left, she becomes an alcoholic. Her life kind of falls apart. She ends up blaming Mark for the dad leaving in, like, a big dramatic scene. And no, that's just not how it's playing out at all. It's playing out very differently in the show, which I think is for the best. I do have some questions about where they're going to go, because there are certain things that happen in the comics where I'm like, is the show still going to do that? Like, if, you know, if we're going strong, independent woman Debbie, which I do think is a great thing, there are certain things in the comic that you just kind of can't do now, or at least you have to justify them better, because they are not well justified in the comics. But in the comics, Debbie's, you know, a lot more of a pushover. I guess that we'll see how she reacts to Oliver in the next episode. But no, Invincible is really great. You know, I'm still, right, people seem to be still really enjoying it. I am one of those people. Gosh dang it. So yeah. No, still great. Rick and Morty, I didn't, from what I had seen, they had released the first 6 episodes. And then I haven't heard anybody talk about it since then. But no, it turns out they did release the next, few episodes. So, episodes 7, 8, and 9, and the show's desperate, right? I've talked about how season 7 has felt more desperate, about them returning to old plot lines. And yeah, it's, like, not that they're, like, it's not the worst TV I've ever seen. Not by a fucking long shot. And I think the new voices are fine. It's more the storylines. Like, they were, so in the second season, in the Get Swifty episode, there's a whole subplot about Ice-T. And right, how Ice-T is actually like an alien, and he's been banished from his homeworld. And in this, they make they actually got Ice-T to play Ice-T. And this time, it's the return of Ice-T. You find out Goldenfold was his math teacher. And there's basically this war between numbers and letters. And he has to, you know, make numbers and letters get along. Right? And Goldenfold's there. And Goldenfold taught him 3/4 structure and how to be a better rapper. But yet, Goldenfold also knew the president when he was the governor. And, right, in order to get the youth vote, Ice-T was supposed to mention math at the Grammys or something like that. And he didn't. Which is kind of like when Goldenfold's life all fell apart. But, you know, it's whatever. You know, it just, I don't know. I don't want to say it reeks of desperation, but, like, this is not a plot line I needed to see again. Right. If I'm just being completely honest. There's some okay puns, I guess. I think that's episode 8. I cannot for the life of me remember episode 7. Oh, episode 7, Episode 7 was fucking stupid. So Summer gets a body modification device by doing chores for Rick, and she uses the body modification device to make herself strong. Then Morty tries to steal it and makes her smart, and then they both end up falling into the pool. And Morty gets like fused to Summer as like a Quado, which is a Total Recall reference. So she goes out partying with other Quados. Eventually Morty gets like taken from her. They make a commentary about like billionaires, you know, doing stuff for trends. And it was just kind of dumb. If I'm being honest, it was just kind of dumb. Again, it reminds me of like an episode from season 1 or season 2. Not in entirely the good ways. It just, like, it's definitely not, again, I still think season 6 was awful. Season 6 had some really bad episodes. This season's biggest problem is just they're kind of boring. Honestly, outside of the spaghetti episode, I really do just feel like this season's biggest problem is that it's just kind of boring and playing it very safe. And then episode 9 was all about Rick learning that the afterlife is real. And so he wants to tap it for infinite energy. An actually pretty decent setup, in my opinion. I think the idea of Rick trying to steal all the infinite energy from heaven is actually a pretty decent idea. And he tries to steal it from Valhalla. And in order to get there, Bigfoot murders him. And then it just kind of gets weird with like Bigfoot starts working for the Pope. Which is very weird, but I kind of feel like I think it was actually probably one of the better episodes. Just because, you know, it's like Bigfoot working for the Pope is very fucking weird. But I think it kind of works. And then in the end, Rick ends up teaming up with Bigfoot to go kill the Pope. And the Pope just like, they get stuck in like a loop where they go in, the Pope murders them. And then they get revived, right? Project Phoenix. Like, yeah, and then they bring in a bunch of other Universal monsters, right? Like the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Frankenstein. So, like, I kind of get where they were going with that, and that has an okay payoff, because they eventually do defeat the Pope by getting rid of the infinite energy. So, yeah, you know, I feel like in the end it all kind of works out, right? Rick having to admit that he was wrong, that he's really bad at judging how smart other people are. And then at the end, they do a bit where they put Bigfoot out into the woods, but he's still got a human body, and they're just like, go! You know, they're doing, like, the whole, like, abandoning, like, a dog in the wild. It's like, go, girl! You know, we don't want... You gotta go! We don't want to see you anymore! But it's, like, a human guy. And Bigfoot's like, no, I want to be a functioning member of society. And then they're just throwing cans at him. That was a decent... It went on very long, but I feel like it's one of those things where it was funny, it stopped being funny, and then it became funny again. So I feel like in the end it worked out. So yeah, no, the Bigfoot episode was decent. And yeah, that's Rick and Morty. You know, it's Rick and Morty. What else do you want me to say? And yeah, I think that's it. Anything else? Oh god. So, okay, so here's, you don't want to know what grinds my gears? Reference to, I'm sure it's something that predates Family Guy, but I will always think of the Family Guy clip first. You want to know what grinds my gears? So I have an Android phone and use Google Podcast, right, to listen to all my podcasts. And Google has decided that they're going to shut down Google Podcasts, and they're going to be moving everything over to YouTube Music, right? Because I noticed this in the background. YouTube has been working on integrating podcasting onto YouTube. So, like, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that this was coming. But technically, Google Podcast doesn't shut down until next year, until, like, April. But, you know, they're giving people the option now to migrate their accounts. So, I was just like, you know what, fuck it, let's do that right now. And so I migrated my account, and at first it wouldn't work, right? At first I was struggling to get it to work. Eventually, I was eventually able to get it to work, where it was like, yep, we're migrating your account. And then when I did, none of my podcasts showed up. Like, the only ones that did were the ones in the RSS feed. Everything else was just not there. And I was like, what the fuck? So I closed the app, came back to it a few hours later. Some of my podcasts had moved over, but there are some that didn't. My guess is that these are podcasts that, like... Because, see, I don't know how this infrastructure works. Like, will all the podcasts from Google Podcasts just now be put on YouTube? Or are they, like... Do you have to... Do podcast companies have to, like, check a box in the background to, like, migrate their podcast to YouTube? Because there are certain podcasts that just aren't there. Podquisition is my example. Right? I went to look at... I was like, because I looked through the list and I was like, why is Podquisition not here? And then so I looked it up and there's just nothing. But it's still on Google Podcasts, just not on YouTube Music. So I'm assuming there must be something in, like, the background where it hasn't, like, migrated yet, or something. There's got to be something like that. But yeah, I hate it. I'll be honest. I don't like YouTube Music, because YouTube Music is now trying to push all this music on me that I just don't give a shit about. Like, I'm here for... Right, I liked Google Podcast because it was just about the podcast, right? It gave me exactly what I needed and nothing more. And I feel like this, right, trying to put a music service in here, you know, like Spoofy, like Apple. I'm assuming Apple Podcasts and Apple Music are integrated as well. At least I think I remember hearing something like that. It's taking two services that were, you know, decent on their own. I'm sure YouTube Music is fine. And it's just making them worse by putting them together. Right? This is what gets us X, the Everything app. You know, it's just taking two already existing services, combining them, and just making something worse in comparison. And there's a few other podcasts that just aren't on there. It's a weird thing where, like, when I go over to, like, my library, it only shows some of the podcasts, and I have to go to, like, a separate podcast page to see the rest of them. And that's kind of stupid. You know, I wish it was all just in one place. I wish I just, when I clicked library, it just showed me all my podcasts. But yeah, it's just disappointing. I'm sure there are good apps out there for Android that won't have this issue. But for what I listen to, you know, this sucks. This sucks, and it's just, at least until, like, everyone's migrated, it just makes everything less convenient. And I don't know how it does push notifications. I don't know. None of the podcasts I'm subscribed to have updated recently. So, like, I don't know if I'm going to get, like, a push notification that's like, hey, this podcast in your RSS feed got a new update. It got a new episode. Because, like, Google Podcast did that. I don't know. YouTube Music is already giving me, like, random... Because I had to download the YouTube Music app. And they're already giving me random push notifications that's like, hey, you might want to listen to this band. So, yeah. Anything else? Any random other bullshit? I listened to... Oh, so Power Wash Simulator. Yeah, that was it. So, I had an audiobook to listen to. I'm not going to say which book. I was listening to an audiobook. And, while doing it, I was like, you know, I want to do something. You know what? Fuck it. Let's play Power Wash Sim. Because Power Wash Simulator recently came to PS Plus. Just the standard service, not like the premium or the extra or whatever. And I was like, you know, I kind of want to, you know, I played some Power Wash Sim on Game Pass on the Xbox One. So I was like, you know, man, I'll play some more Power Wash Sim. Because Power Wash Sim is the type of game where you can play it for, like, it'll feel like you've been playing for, like, 30 minutes, and it'll have actually been, like, 3 hours. I feel like time just flies in Power Wash Sim. But I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll boot up Power Wash Sim. And I'm now farther in it on PlayStation than I am on Xbox. But I still, you know, have a lot more to do. So yeah, I don't know how much more time I'm going to put into it. You definitely get to the point where it's like, oh shit, you know? Like, there's just so much to do. So I'm kind of, like, worried about that. Like, where was my messages? Sure, fuck it. Like, I'm definitely, like, oh my god, I'm like, worried about some things. You know, like, I definitely have my, like, head, like, oh my god, because this game could consume my life. And it is just doing a very repetitive task over and over again. Like, at its core, that's what Power Wash Sim is. And so I'm kind of like, you know, it's a good podcast. It definitely is a very good podcast game. But is it the podcast game I want? That's the bigger complication, you know? Is it the podcast game I want? But, you know, I did a few levels. You know, I did the old lady that lives in the shoe. I did a few entire houses. They did put out a Christmas DLC, though, like yesterday. And so I'm definitely going to go play that Christmas DLC at some point. Because that seems like it could be fun. Yeah, I totally get how Power Wash Simulator could consume somebody's soul. I didn't know it was Square Enix. I thought Power Wash Sim was like an indie game. But no, there's like a lot of like Square Enix crossover, which kind of surprised me. So yeah. Oh, this is my first time playing this map. I have no idea what the fuck we're doing here. So that takes us to our next thing. So Godzilla. So Godzilla Minus One came out like 2 weeks ago, and I had heard a bunch of great things about it. So I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna go watch that. Cause you know, I like me some Godzilla. Right? I love all Godzillas. I like the classics, like the original horror movie. That's, you know, a metaphor for the war. I like the modern day Godzilla. That's, you know, more of that, you know, is like, hey, we're just gonna have cool monsters punching each other. I like the more cheesy Godzilla of like the 60s and 70s that are just people in rubber suits doing stupid shit. Like, that's entertaining. I think there is no like, oh, Godzilla should only be horror, or Godzilla should only be action. Godzilla should be all things. So, yeah, right, we had Shin Godzilla a few years ago. That was like, hey, we're going to do war movie Godzilla again. Or, you know, we're going to do horror movie Godzilla. This one is, hey, we're going to do war movie Godzilla. So this Godzilla Minus One as a war movie is the, hey, what if Godzilla was, you know, it's a metaphor for war. But it's also about the indomitable human spirit, right? The fact that no matter what terrible situation you put humans in, they will never give up. They will always fight on, you know, they will push through insurmountable odds to accomplish great things. That's what it's a war movie, but that's what it's about. And I feel like to that end, it is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed Godzilla Minus One. I feel it's honestly one of the best movies of the year. And this has been a great year for movies as well. Like, is Godzilla Minus One going to get the same recognition as, like, Barbie and Oppenheimer? Or even some other, what's that? What was Past Lives? Was that the movie's name? Is it going to get as much recognition as some of those movies? No. But does it still deserve some recognition? Definitely. I really enjoyed it. The main character, whose name I've already forgotten, it's about him, this girl who's living with him, who's not his wife, but like they're both like survivors of the war, and they're living together with an orphan, right? They've basically adopted this third girl whose parents died in the war, right? In the bombings of Tokyo. And it's just the three of them, you know, trying to survive. And then in the background, Godzilla's gonna show up and fuck everyone's shit up. It just works really well. The Godzilla, I think, looks great, right? The special I don't know, right, the Godzilla design reminds me more of, like, the modern-day Legendary ones from the Legendary universe, but I like the Legendary universe design, so I feel like it works. The atomic breath scene in this movie, right, like, everyone talks about Shin Godzilla's atomic breath scene, and, like, rightfully so. It's a really great scene. But this one also has a fantastic atomic breath scene, in my opinion. Probably I'd probably say better than the one from the 2014 Godzilla, which I feel like also did a great job. That was also a great atomic breath scene, right? The one near the end of the movie. Yeah, it's a great movie about the indomitable human spirit that I really haven't seen anywhere else. So to that end, I think it does a fantastic job. God, we're just getting fucked right here. We can't get past this corridor. I hate Clam Blitz. I hate Clam Blitz so much. God, they've gotten that hammer so many times. Or the Ultra Stamp, you know what I mean. I meant to talk about Godzilla last week because I actually saw it because it was only in theaters for like 7 days. And so I saw it on like Thursday last week, right when it went out of theaters. And it was fantastic. And I meant to talk about it last week and then just completely forgot. I got completely sidetracked, and yeah, but no, great movie, easy recommend. I'm assuming it might still be in some theaters because it did really well at the box office. Because I've talked this year about how movies are either completely full or completely empty. There is no in between. Godzilla was actually pretty full. It was. I feel like Parasite has done a lot to get us into the point of like, yep, movies, subbed, because it's only in subbed, right? There is no dub of this movie, right? Unlike Boy and the Heron, which I will get around to seeing sometime in the next week or two, which I have no problem in sub versus dub, but I feel like Parasite has taken us a long way as a general American culture to get us okay with watching subtitled movies. Because yeah, this theater was packed. But of course I say that, but there was that clip from Letterboxd this week on TikTok where they were asking like Emma Stone, like what are her favorite movies? And she named a bunch of foreign films and people got like mad at her for it. It's like, fuck off. Fuck right off with that. So I don't know. I don't know what to say, but I enjoyed Godzilla. Easy recommendation. Great movie. So that was the movie I saw that was filled. What about the movie I saw that was empty? Well, that was Wonka. There were 5 of us at Wonka, which, pretty standard for a movie nowadays. So, I saw Wonka. Honestly... Oh yeah, I forgot. We don't normally play Clam Blitz or any other mode on nights like these. So I did not, when Wonka was announced a while ago, I didn't really care for it. But it's directed by, God, is it Paul King or Peter King? I don't fucking remember. It's directed by some guy named King. And that had me interested in the film because King did the Paddington movies. And Paddington 1 is a fantastic movie. It's a great movie, right? Easy recommendation. Paddington 2, on the other hand, is one of the best movies of all time. Like, there was a time period where Paddington 2 was the highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, one of those sites. And rightfully so, because Paddington 2 is one of the best movies of all time. So when I heard King was doing this movie, even though I have no interest in the subject, I liked King's work. So I, of course, was interested in this movie, just because it was King who was doing it. So I went and saw it last night, and I do enjoy it. You know, the comparison I made afterwards was that this movie is to Paddington 1 and 2 what Kung Fu Panda 3 is to Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2. Because Kung Fu Panda 1 is an amazing movie, right? It's really good. Kung Fu Panda 2 is a perfect movie. Kung Fu Panda 3, on the other hand, is a fantastic movie that's just not as good as the first two. And that's kind of what I feel about Wonka. It's a fantastic movie that's just not as good as the other two movies done by the director. Even though they have no relations, and I am kind of worried about Paddington 3 because it is a different director. Right? I do have that fear of like, oh, is Paddington 3, Paddington in Peru gonna be good because it's a new director? So I do have that concern. But I'm still mostly positive on, right, like, hey, the Paddington movies are great. At least the first two are. But yeah, so I do enjoy this movie. It does have some creativity. It does have imagination. King's style is definitely shown through his directing. It's not as in your face in certain, right? Because it's still like, it's got that Ronald Dahl level of creativity that, you know, doesn't go too far like Great Glass Elevator, but is definitely still seen there. There were some weird choices that I was worried about at first, like the main character, right, Wonka himself cannot read. And that was a choice I was really concerned about at first, because he's a fucking book character. But no, a big plot of the movie is him learning to read, realizing how great reading is. Noodle, who's like the little orphan girl who's helping him out, also has this realization that, right, she's a bookworm, right? She's the one teaching him to read, because she, by nature, is a bookworm. We pop the... God, there's always one here, man. We can't even, we get close, and then one just pops out of nowhere and kills us. Yeah, what else in Wonka? Yeah, I feel like there's some, the movie, kind of like the Paddington movies, the movie randomly turns into a heist movie near the end. But, you know, I feel like that's fine, you know, it allows them to be creative. Okay, so one of the complaints I've seen about this movie is that it's not dark, right? Like, the original Willy Wonka has these moments where it becomes really dark all of a sudden, right? Everyone thinks of the boat scene. But there's a few other moments like that. And part of me was kind of hoping there is a version of this movie that's all about Wonka losing his faith in humanity. Where, right, he comes into the new country, this new town, as like a genuinely good guy. But then through the events of the story, he loses his faith in humanity. Which explains why his factory is only run by Oompa Loompas. And no, that's not what happens. That is not what happens. It's a very fun, very lighthearted movie. That's just how they decide to go with it. Is that a bad choice? No. Again, I love the Paddington movies, and Paddington sees the best in everything. So I feel like it does work, it just doesn't work as well. If that makes sense. Oh, shit. But, like, I did enjoy the movie. I do feel like it's a good movie. It's just not as good as, you know, some of the other stuff I've seen. I guess I'll go into spoilers real quick. So, you find out... So, okay. So, one of the things I was expecting... So, we saw the Oompa Loompa... And you find out in the Oompa Loompa that the reason why they're following Willy Wonka is because he stole their cocoa beans. So the Oompa Loompa's like, oh, I won't leave you alone until you've paid me off 1,000-fold. Right? For all the cocoa beans you stole, I have to basically get 1,000. And so I thought where that was so the villains, the chocolate cartel, Slugworth, has like a giant underground vault of chocolate that they use to bribe politicians, judges, the police. So I thought at the end, Wonka was going to get all the Oompa Loompas to work with him by trading that giant vault of chocolate in exchange for the Oompa Loompas' help, right? And that's how he pays them off 1,000-fold. And I was like, that would make sense. No, instead they turn all that chocolate into a fountain. And I'm just, and like, okay, sure, whatever. They do, I don't like how in the trailers, one of the final, if you've seen the trailers, there's a shot with Sally Hawkins, the mom from the first two Paddington movies. There's a scene with her. It turns out that's one of the final scenes of the movie. Not the final scene, but it's near the end. And so that kind of, I kind of wish they didn't give that away. Because you find out, right, Sally Hawkins is Wonka's mom. And so I was kind of disappointed to find out that no, she's not actually, that's basically just her ghost. We do, right, Timothy Chalamet? It's Timothy Chalamet, right? Who plays Wonka, does a good job, in my opinion. Yes, he does have those Wonka-isms, turn your mind upside down. Wait, scratch that, reverse that. You've seen it in the trailers. Right, he does have those, but honestly, they're not too bad. They're not like every scene of the movie. I feel like the movie's a lot more restrained with that. Honestly, overall, the movie is, when it comes to references to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I was expecting one of the ending scenes of this movie to be Wonka opening his chocolate factory and then hiring people, specifically Grandpa Joe. Because I want to say in all, because I know definitely in the Johnny Depp version, or at least, but I want to say in the original as well, right, Grandpa Joe worked for Wonka until he was laid off. I want to say that for sure is in the Johnny Depp version, but I want to say it's in all the other versions as well. So I was expecting right at the end of the movie to be Wonka opening his factory, hiring people, and one of them being, a much younger Grandpa Joe. That's not what happens. Actually, that's never even mentioned. Like, yeah, he opens the factory at the end of the movie, but he opens it with the Oompa Loompa. So no, the ending of the movie actually played out way differently. Not like super differently. They do use the song from the original, the Come With Me and You'll See a World of Pure Imagination. That song is in this movie. I've seen some people be like, oh no, it's really bad. I thought it was fine. I should say, the movie's a musical? Honestly, from watching the ads, I never would have guessed that. I had no idea. I expected, the Oompa Loompa to have a musical song. I want to say that's in the trailer. But no, the entire thing is actually a musical. Which really surprised me. I was not expecting that. I was expecting musical elements, but not for the whole thing to be a musical. Ah, god damn it, we just got there a little too late. But no, I thought the songs were fine. They definitely, there's the normal world and then there's musical world. But I feel like most of the cast does a good job, right? Timothy Chalamet, the girl who played Noodle, did a fine job. There's a supporting cast of characters that includes there's an accountant, a telephone operator. Oh god, what's the other one? An accountant, a telephone operator, and two others. And I feel like they all do really well. They have their fun moments. There's an inn run by this weird guy and this yellow lady who feel very Ronald Dahl, right? And I think it's just the actress does a fantastic job. I cannot remember the actress's name for the life of me, but I feel like she does a good job. And then, yeah, I feel like it's good. It's not amazing, but it's good. So I'm going to take that victory to the bank, and I think that's where we're going to end off. That's where we're going to call it for the night. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to call it there. Ugh. Let's go check the store. Yeah, no, Wonka, you know, it's not the worst movie you could see. I enjoy it. Is it... Again, I'll always recommend Paddington 2, but I still think it was pretty good. I still think it was pretty good, and I had a good time with it. So, yeah. I guess that takes us to the end. So, what is coming up in the future? Well, the Pokemon DLC came out. TikTok has just been filling my feed with spoilers. No matter how many times I say not interested, there's always another spoiler. I haven't really seen anything like huge like story spoiler yet, but I've definitely seen some of the new Pokemon. Right? I've seen the Applin evolution, which I did not want to see. But you know, I've mostly avoided things. But you know, it just kind of sucks. You know, I would have, if I could have, I would have avoided everything. But other than that, you know, we will be back tomorrow with the Pokemon. We're gonna play it for, you know, several hours. And yeah, I've been training up some Pokemon to get ready for it, because I've heard every battle in the DLC is a double battle, and that trainers are better. They might have even changed I saw something about they might have changed the champions team. That Geta, at least in maybe it's just in the DLC, but you know, people were saying that Geta was too easy, so they might have just completely redone her team. Not like to make her the hardest thing ever, but you know, definitely they made her harder, from what I've heard. Like, her ace is no longer Glamora. I guess it's now King Gambit. Which I definitely think is a good move. So yeah, but we'll be back with that tomorrow. Like I said, I enjoyed the teal mask, so I have hopes for the Indigo Disc. I think it can be fun. And yeah, we'll be back with that. And then yeah, I was looking at the schedule. So next week will just be a normal in chat. And then the week after that, on the 29th, I say we do Game of the Year. Even though I have not fully written the list or anything, I have not written my Game of the Year yet. I think it just makes sense to do Game of the Year on the 29th. So that is my plan, and that's what will come in the future. But yeah, you know, I'm excited to play some Pokemon, so we will be back tomorrow with that. But until then, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.